One moment. Let's make sure it's still here. Right. So we're going to be looking at input, a checkbox input. Do we know what checkboxes are used for? Have you ever heard about checkbox? You know about checkboxes, right?
Yes.
Give me an example of when you use a checkbox.
When you verify that is a human, I guess that's a checkbox.
Yeah, that's true. When you get the captcha that says prove that you're not a robot, you have to click the checkbox first, yeah? Give me another example of when you use a checkbox.
Like any type of checkbox, right?
Any type of checkbox.
Yeah, male or female.
Hmm?
Male or female. Check.
Okay. That is a type of box, not exactly a checkbox, and I'll explain why.
Sir, select more than one option.
Select more than one option, yeah. So, particularly the reason why we wouldn't use a checkbox for gender is because forms don't usually allow you to check more than one box, right? We use checkboxes when we want to give the user the option to select either no option or more than one option, at least one option.
Those are all of the above.
Or all of the above, right? So at least zero. Zero or one or many, right? An example of that would be like when you're ordering pizza. When you're ordering pizza, you want to give the user option to choose whichever topping they want. So they can choose no toppings, they can choose pepperoni, they can choose pineapple, they can choose sweet pepper, or whatever else, right? So that's a checkbox. You use a checkbox when you want to give the user opportunity to choose at least zero options. And at least means zero or many, right? All right. Radio buttons now. When do you use radio buttons? Do we know about radio buttons? They're not include radio. Give an example that he said a while ago. When a form asks you to choose gender. You know that circle? The circle thing that you click?
Yeah, I heard of Google Forms, sir.
It appears in Google Forms, yes. So we use a radio button when you want the user to choose specifically one option. Not zero and not more than one, but specifically one. An example of that, again, when you're ordering pizza, you specify what size the pizza must be. A pizza cannot be small, medium, and large. It is either small or medium or large. So you have to choose one, right? So you'll notice that when you're interacting with a radio button, if you're given more than one radio button, and you choose one, and you change your mind and choose the next one, the first one deselects, and the other one selects, right? Okay. So we're going to be looking at the behavior of radio buttons as well. So let's start off with a checkbox. So I'm going to create an input of type checkbox. I'll give it an ID. I can give him an ID of register check. Let me see, I'll put it above my button. Where'd it go? See what that looks like. Let me close this. Okay, zoom out. So here's our checkbox down here. Checkbox by itself because it doesn't have a label, so I'll give it a label. I'll give it an arbitrary label for now and just say label is, I'll specify that the label is for register check. And the label is pepperoni. Yeah? All right, tell you why I don't like this. It's because the label comes before the checkbox. I prefer to put the checkbox on the left. So what I'll do, I'll just put the input below the label. Like this, right? I'll put some more space. Yeah? So now we have the opportunity to choose pepperoni, right? But we don't just want to have one checkbox. We want to have more than one. That way the user can choose more than one option. So I'll just duplicate this. Give me some toppings. What do we like?
Music.
No, as in pizza toppings.
Pineapple.
Oh, yeah.
Pineapple.
Topic. Not topic. Oh.
Oh.
Never hear.
What else?
Pineapple, sausage, sausage.
Sausage Africa.
Why is something like
Jerk.
that?
Jerk chicken.
Jerk chicken.
Anchovies.
Who eats anchovies?
No, some
So
like
you have sausage, you know, sir.
Sausage.
All right, sachets.
France.
Sausage.
Why?
Let's spell sachets.
Jerk beef.
Beef.
Sausage, actually. Sausage.
How that is Regine?
Jamaica bad talking, bro.
It's not bad talking.
So what's there?
It's patois. It's patois.
TNT.
Patois is not bad talk. Patois is not bad talk. Because when you talk, I understand you. That means it's proper talk. What other one?
Meat. Beef.
Beef. All right. So we have our options. Make sense? And I can choose one, I can choose none, and I can choose all of them. I can choose any combination that I want. That's a pineapple spell? What wrong with that? You understand it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sachis. That's a pineapple spell? This not look right. There's an E, don't. I missed the E for true. Pineapple. All right. So that is, oh, you know what I need to do as well? I need to make sure that each one of my inputs have a different ID. So I'll change this from register check to register pepperoni, register pineapple, register jerk, jerk. And just a beef. I need to change these as well. Beef, sandwiches, jerk. Good. All right. All right. I'm going to put these on a different page because I want to show an example. And I don't want it to conflict with the example I have already. So let me cut this out. Oh, wait. All right, so I'm going to put another submit button here. My submit button is going to be of input of type submit. Where's the submit one? Submit. I'll give it a value. Submit. So we have our options on our submit button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some JavaScript that will show which one of the options I chose in a message down here. All right? So I'm going to put an element down here. I'm going to create a p tag, a paragraph tag that doesn't have anything in it. So below my submit, let me close this up. So below my submit button, I will have a p tag, and I'll give it an ID. I'm going to create ID called message. So enter, and now a p tag. So this is my empty p tag that has an ID of message. When I go back to my web page, you cannot see it because it's an empty p tag. But the element is there below the submit. Let me put a break here. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new file called script2.js. I'm calling it script2 because I already have a script.js. And then I'm going to link my script2.js to my HTML. The script tags must always go right above the closing body tag. It must be below all of your content. So it should be the last thing in the body, always. So I'll put a script tag, and I'll choose script and give it a source. And the source is going to be whatever the name of my JavaScript file is. So the source will be script2.js. So now my HTML knows that my JavaScript exists. So we can write some JavaScript now. First thing I want to do is I want to make it so that when I click this button, something happens. So first thing I need to do is locate this submit button. I need JavaScript to know that this submit button exists. I'm going to identify it by using the ID of the submit button. The ID of my submit button, it doesn't have a submit ID right now, so I'll give it an ID. So I'll give it an ID of submit. Let me call it, I'll just call it submit. So it has an ID of submit. So now for me to get access to that button, I'm going to create a variable. And I'm going to call it submit button. And I'll set it equal to document.getElement by ID. And I'll specify that the ID is submit. So this submit here is the same submit that I have in my HTML. It's the same as this submit. So I'm telling JavaScript to look for an element that has this ID, submit. When you find it, store it in this variable called submit button. All right? Now I want to tell JavaScript that when the button is clicked, it must do something. So I'm going to add an event listener. The button is going to listen for an event. So I'm going to say submit button dot add event listener. The event I'm listening out for is the click event, meaning I'm telling JavaScript when this button is clicked, perform this action. And the action is, I'll call it handle submit. Submit. Yeah? So I'm saying, I'm listening for a particular event. The event I'm listening for is click. That means when this button is clicked, do this. So now I need to create a function with this name so that JavaScript knows what this is, so that it can know to do the thing. Right? So I'm going to create a function. I'll create my function above the event handler. To create a function, I say function, and then I give it the same name. So I'll say handle submit. Handle submit. So this is my function. Handle submit. This handle submit is the same as this handle submit. They need to be written the same way. I'm saying when this button is clicked, do this. And this is defined here. So whatever this says, that's what the button will do when you click it. I just want to make sure that my button is actually working. So I'm just going to put an alert, a test alert. So I'm going to say alert, it works. So that means when my button is clicked, the web page is going to alert me and say it works. So I'm going to click on submit, and it says it works. You can't see because it's small, but this is the alert, it says it works. So at least now I know that my button works. All right, so I'm going to remove this now because I don't need it anymore. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to check in my handle submit function, I'm going to check to see what checkboxes are checked. And depending on which ones are checked, I'll know that the person ordered pepperoni or beef or sausage or whatever. All right? So let's access those, what name they? Checkboxes. So I need to access them the same way I was able to access my input button, my submit button, I mean. So I'm going to say var. Let's do pepperoni first. So pepperoni check is equal to document.getElement by ID. And the ID of my pepperoni checkbox is register pepperoni. You can choose to give the ID any name you want. I just chose to name my register pepperoni. So at this point, this variable should store the checkbox itself. but it's not the checkbox I want. I want to see whether the checkbox is checked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say pepperoni. This was pepperoni. Pepperoni. I need var pepperoni is equal to pepperoni checkbox dot checked. All right. So this pepperoni check, which is this variable here, is the checkbox that I got from the document, that got from the web page. This dot checked is us checking to see if the checkbox itself was checked, meaning there's a checkbox inside it. If it is checked, this will return true, and pepperoni will be true. That means the person got pepperoni. If it is not checked, this will return false, and then this will be false. That means the person did not check pepperoni. All right? I want to confirm something real quick. I just need to make sure that it's actually checked. Let me check something. HTML JS get checkbox value. Dot. Okay, no, it looks like it's not checked. Oh, it is checked. Yeah, it is checked. All right. Let's confirm and see if it works. At this point here, I should know whether or not the person chose pepperoni. So I'm going to write an alert. Should I use an alert? I'll use a console.log just to test it out. I will write to the console to see whether or not the person got pepperoni. And anytime you want to see whether or not something happened, if you want to check on something, always use an if statement. So I'm going to say, if pepperoni equal true, then I'm going to console.log you chose pepperoni. And I'm going to say else, I'll copy this, you did not choose pepperoni. Right? So again, we're just doing this to test it out. We're going to see if my checkbox is actually recognizable by my JavaScript. So now, I'm going to go back to my web page, open the console, just to see if it will work. I'll put it on the right-hand side. I'm going to watch and see what happens. So I'm going to choose pepperoni. And I'm going to click submit. And my console says you chose pepperoni. I'm going to uncheck pepperoni. I'm going to click submit. It says you did not choose pepperoni. Yeah? So depending on whether this is checked and I click submit, we'll get a different message in the console. So that means at this point we know that two things. One, a button works for sure. And the second thing is I know that my JavaScript is able to listen for the state of this checkbox, at least this one. I only wrote code for this checkbox. So that means if I choose pineapple and click submit, it will only tell me again, hold on, let me make it clearer. If I choose pineapple, all it's going to tell me is that I did not choose pepperoni. Because at the moment, my code doesn't know anything about pineapple, jerk chicken, or the rest. It only knows about pepperoni. So I'm going to write code to fill in the blanks. All right? So, what do I have? I have pineapple next. Var pineapple Let's copy this. Another var for pineapple is equal to pineapple check dot checked. All right. I'm going to change my if statement. Do I need to change my if statement? Let me see. No, yeah, I'm just going to take this part out. I don't need the else. All I want to know is that the person chose pepperoni. If they didn't, I don't want it to say anything. I'm going to have another if statement that looks just like this one. Copy this, put it here. And I'm going to say if pineapple is true, then you chose pineapple. All right? So this is my code so far. I have values for pepperoni, pineapple, and I'm checking if they got pepperoni and I'm checking if they got pineapple. So I'll go back to my console and I'm going to choose pineapple and I'm not going to choose pepperoni. It says you chose pineapple. Now I'm going to choose pepperoni. Submit. You chose pepperoni, you chose pineapple. So depending on what code I have written, it will tell me whether or not I have certain values chosen. Yeah? So what it means is that for all the rest of the buttons, I would need to make sure that I get the checkbox from the document and then get whether it is checked. And I need to do that for each one of my checkboxes. All right? And again, just to be clear, console.log is just for testing purposes. It's for you as the developer, as the programmer, right? If it is a case where you're supposed to relay a message to the user using your website, you're not supposed to rely on the console. The console is just for your personal use. It is not for the user. If you want to let the user see some information, you take that information, you put it on the web page itself. So I'll show you how to do that. So remember, this paragraph tag that I have here, this empty paragraph tag, I'm going to populate that paragraph tag using JavaScript. Okay, so what I'm going to say is, I'm going to keep these if statements, and I'm going to say var message element or message paragraph is equal to document.getElementById message. All right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some information or put some text into the message tag. And in order for me to put some information in between these tags, I'm going to use inner HTML. So I'm going to say message paragraph dot inner HTML is equal to, and I can set it to be equal to whatever I want. I'll just do a test for now. This is a test. So what this is going to do, when I click the button, regardless of what I've chosen, my message is just going to say this is a test. So I'll choose pepperoni, choose pineapple, hit submit, and it says this is a test. Right? It still shows what we chose in the console, but we're not relying on the console because users won't have console open when they're just using our website normally. So instead of just saying this is a test, I'm going to make it actually show what values the user chose. So let's see. I'm going to have a variable here called options. I set it to be blank originally. What I'll do, instead of a console log, I will add the options to this variable here called options. Let me put this variable up here actually so I have access to it. So I'll put up here, and I'll say if pepperoni is true. Pepperoni being true means that the person did choose pepperoni. So I'm just going to add an option. I'm going to say plus equal pepperoni. I'll put a comma there. You'll see why in a second. Remove this one here now. And I'll say pineapple. Options plus equal pineapple. The comma there. All right. So now, for the message, instead of this is a test, I'll have it say you chose the following options. And then I will insert my options. Oh wait, let me just put a plus right here, easier. All right? So you chose the following options, and then I put my option. This options here is the same as this options here. So this variable is blank by default or empty. It doesn't have any text in it. If the user chooses pepperoni, then I will add pepperoni to the options list. If they choose pineapple, I'll add pineapple to the options list. So only if these two things are true will this message actually print the actual options. If I don't choose anything, it will just say you chose the following options, and it will have nothing beside it. So let me test it. So if I choose pepperoni only and click submit, you chose the following options, pepperoni. If I choose both options, it says you chose the following options, pepperoni, pineapple. If I choose nothing, it just say you chose the following options. Make sense? Yeah? Let's say I wanted it to look a bit more presentable. So as opposed to a sentence with some commas in it, what if I wanted to put a list below my message, like an unordered list, the one with the bullet points? What I could do instead, so I'd have to make a few changes. I would need to add an unordered list to my HTML. So in addition to my p tag, I need to put an unordered list here. So I'm going to put a UL here, and I'll give it an ID of options list. All right? So it's an empty UL. I'm going to programmatically put some data right here. So I'm still going to specify that the options you chose the following options. I'll still put that in the message paragraph, which is here. But I'm going to put actual options in the UL. So I'll take this out, and I will say var options list is equal to document dot get element by ID, and it was called options list. And then I will set the inner HTML of the options list. The inner HTML of the options list, that's going to be inner HTML is equal to options. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. I'm going to choose both of these and choose that. So we have a partial list here. It doesn't look like an unordered list. But the reason it doesn't look like an unordered list is because we need to remember that for an unordered list or an ordered list, unordered list. What goes in an unordered list? Do we know what goes in an unordered list? If you want to list out options with bullet points, what would we put here? What kind of element? Do you remember? Li. Good. So instead of just putting the literal string here just like this, we need to put it in the form of an li. So we need to write li and then close the li. Right? Same thing here. Need to put li and also close the li. So now our options are going to be inserted into the UL in the form of LIs, or list items. So now, when I choose it, they'll look like list items. Yes? All right. Can you fill out the rest? The rest of them? And make it so that if you only choose one, it only shows one. Yeah? Yes? My code is here. Let's fill out the rest. So I did 2 for you. You do the rest.
Sir, so you have to update HTML, you have to do, sir.
Mm-hmm. I want you to practice the HTML. The HTML is relatively simple. They are inputs of type check. Where is it? Wait, is this one? No. Yeah, this one. Inputs of type check and also their corresponding labels. Again, your ID doesn't have to be register, jerk or register, whatever. It can be whatever you want as long as you remain consistent.
Sir, what is your form, sir? JS.
Just the HTML and JavaScript. Hmm? What's this?
He does, sir.
Mostly, yeah. Let me pause this. Yeah. So I'm just going to be adding a few radio buttons, and I'll be showing you how to get the values from the radio buttons as well. It's more or less the same, but there's one particular thing that you need to look out for when you're doing radio buttons. So let me add some radio buttons here. Put a BR here. So I'm going to put an input of type radio, and I'll give it an ID. So I'm going to have register small, duplicate it and put a medium and a large. Medium, the large. And I also need some labels for that. So let me create some labels. So this one is going to be for register email. No, lie, register small. Where is that? Register small. This one is going to be for register medium. And this one is large. I'll just fit them in. Put that there, there, and here. How does this look? Oh, they don't have any text. I need to put some text here. So this one is small. This one is medium. And this one is large. Look at that. And we have small, medium, and large, but again, I prefer to have them with the radio to the left of the label. So I'll just move them. Yeah, so now I have small, medium, and large. But we seem to have an issue. Do we see the issue? What is the issue I have my radio buttons? I selected all of them. Should that be allowed? That should not be allowed. The reason for that is by default, when you're creating radio buttons, HTML does not know that these radio buttons are all related. It does not know that they're all answering the same question. The question being, what size you want, right? HTML just thinks that there are individual radio buttons that all serve, they stand alone. So what we need to do is we need to add the three of them to a group. When they are added to a group, HTML then knows that if you choose one, it's supposed to deselect the other one or unselect the other one. If you choose this one, it's supposed to unselect the other one. The reason we need to do that is because it is entirely possible for you to have more than one groups of radio button on your website. You can have one set of radio buttons asking you for the size of the pizza that you want. You have another radio button that may ask you, you're paying by card, you're paying with cash, or you're paying online, right? And if you had 3 more radio buttons that ask you how you're going to pay, cash, card, or online, you wouldn't want it so that if you choose online, it deselect large, right? Because it's 2 different questions you're asking. This one is asking what size pizza you want, and the other one is asking how you're paying. So it's 2 completely separate questions. So we need to have 2 different groups for both sets of radio buttons. So I'm going to let HTML know that these 3 radio buttons are of the same group. And we do that by specifying the name. So I'm going to put a name. I already have the name attribute here for this radio button. I'm going to call this pizza size. And if I specify pizza size as the name for this radio button, it's going to be the same radio button for this one. Same name. So any radio button you want to be a part of the same group, you give it the same name. So all 3 of my radio buttons all have the same name. And that name in my case is pizza size. So I'll save this. And now if I choose large and say, wait, no, large too expensive, I'm going to choose medium instead. It will deselect large and go to medium. If I say, no, I want small instead, it will deselect medium and go to small. So now HTML knows that they're all a part of the same group. All right? Let's add 3 more. Let's do the payment method one. So I will add the payment method. Let me copy this. And I'll just change this from register small to register card, register cash, register online. Change this to online. Card, cash. Change the labels. Card, cash, online. So now I have 3 sets of two sets of 3 radio buttons. So that means I can choose to have a large pizza and I can pay with cash. But something does something my logo. Look at what my logo. I said I wanted a large pizza and I want to pay with cash. Why is it that when I choose cash, it deselect large? If I choose card and I want small, it deselect card. Why that happen? Why might that have happened? Let's look at my code and see if you can tell me why that happened. Zoom in. Why is it that when I chose card, it deselected large? When I choose online, it deselects small? They're all of the same name. All of them say pizza size. That means all of my radio buttons are of the same group. That means I need to change the group here so that it can be different from the ones up here. So that means if I choose something from here, it will not affect these. Yeah. So I'm going to change it from pizza size. I'm going to call it pizza payment instead. So these 3 have pizza payment. Is spelled wrong? Yes. Payment. So now all 3 of these have the same group. So if I choose a medium, I can choose online. If I choose large, I can choose cash. If I choose small, I can choose card. Yeah? Make sense? And the way we read a radio button to see if it is checked or unchecked is the same as a checkbox. So you just get its ID. In my case, this card had said the ID is register-card. And then to check to see if it is checked or not, you just say .checked. Yeah. So what you can do as well, when you click on the submit button, in addition to telling the user what option they chose, you can also show them what size pizza they chose as well as how they intend to pay. Oh, it says 28. And my time sheet. Don't remind me. For the assessment that we'll have tomorrow, like I said, it is based very heavily on JavaScript. It doesn't mean that you won't be asked to write any HTML. You need HTML so that the JavaScript can affect something on the page. You'll need to understand variables. We went through variables here. I covered some more about variables in a previous class. You'll need to understand arrays. We went through arrays. I think the recording on arrays is online now. You'll need to understand for loops, functions, like what I showed you a while ago, if statements. You'll need to understand DOM manipulation. And when I say DOM manipulation, what I'm talking about is the document get element by ID thing. You'll need to understand events. So make it so that when you click on a button, something happens. You'll need to understand window objects like alert and prompt and confirm. Again, that stuff is covered in the video I posted. Yeah, so for the most part, that's it. If you understand those topics and your HTML is okay, you should be good for the assessment tomorrow. I don't remember if it's a case where you're required to do any kind of CSS. Let me look that up. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's that. Yeah, so there is some styling requirements for the assessment. It is only worth 8 out of the 60 marks though. So what I would focus on is working on the HTML and the JavaScript and do styling for last. Or if you're more confident in CSS, put the effort into styling. Wherever you have the most confidence, put the effort there. And the CSS requirement is just that you choose a consistent and appropriate color scheme and make sure that the layout is readable and appropriate. Wait, am I? Oh no, I'm still recording.